Hello everybody and welcome back to Angie B Crafts. Today I am going to have a play with some fabulous stencils that I love. Now these are stencils from JMC Designs. As you can see, they are very, very well loved. These are the main ones that I use out of the collection. She says throwing them on the floor. I just think they're amazing. These are the steampunk ones, obviously, with the cogs. This is my top three, one of my top three all-time favourite stencils. Absolutely love it. Can't really see it there with the others underneath. Let's do that. There you go, then you can see it. It's a fabulous burst. So I'm going to have a play with these, and I've got some stamps as well from JMC Designs. They're just fab. I love them. I'm lucky enough to be on the design team, so whenever there is a new release I do get an opportunity to play with it, which is quite nice. But yeah, this is my favourite range. So I'm just going to do a really simple journal page. I've got a vague idea what I want to achieve, but it's nothing more than a vague idea. So let's see what happens. Now I've decided to go for green and red. I'm not quite sure why. It's not really colours that you would put together very much. Oops, sorry, it just headbutted the camera. Apologies for that. So it's not colours that you generally put together, but something made me decide to do it. I don't know if it's something that I've seen someone else do or seen someone else's work, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to give this a quick blast just straight off. You can see there's an awful lot of movement there, so let's see if we can just keep some of it nice and sort of sparked out as it is at the minute. And then all I've done now is just pop a piece of paper over the top. This is just one that happened to be at the side of me. I've already used it to mop up some jelly roll rayering, so it's just a spare piece. So what we now have is a bit of a background. Now, I don't know if you can see on camera, there's some beautiful striations coming out in each of the direction where the red has gone into the green. The inks that I've used Distress Oxide Lucky Clover, and I've used Distress Stain Spray, which is just a normal distress ink, in Crackling Campfire. Crackling Campfire is one of the four newest ones. I've only got 2 of them so far. I'm still desperate to get the Kitsch Flamingo, which is the latest one. Right, so we've got a basic there, a baseline there of what we're going to work on top of. As I say, it's quite a simple one. So we want some background, but I want to keep with the same colours. I'm going to use, this is one of the Stamplimentals sets, and I absolutely love this. And every time I use it, it brings a smile to my face, because the handwriting on this stamp is made up of the handwriting of Julia's grandma. And Julia is the owner of JMC Designs, so it's really, really lovely that she's got that. Now I've got my Barn Door Distress ink. This is kind of the closest red I've got. There's more orange to this, but I'm hoping that this is going to look okay as a stamping. Because it's background, I'm wanting to do it in a similar colourway. I'm not wanting to do it in black just yet. I probably will at some point, but just at the minute I'm wanting to get some little bits of colour down. I couldn't even tell you which way up the writing is on this. I suppose I should be able to know that, but it doesn't really matter because it's in the background. And that's the idea of a background, even if it's upside down, back to front, doesn't matter. We're just adding texture into the background. I am actually rather pleased with how this has come up. The way that the Crackling Campfire is separated out, it's almost got a rusty feel to it, and because I've used it with the Lucky Clover but I haven't sprayed it with water, you've kept a deeper colour. If you spray the oxides with water, they become more chalky, but the colour also becomes less intense. I'm just going to move that along a little bit so that I can use it in this corner, and then just do a couple of second and third generations. There we go. Right, so that is the first stage done. I'm just wondering what's underneath. Oh, that's fine. I was just checking that I wasn't going to get loads of mess on the page underneath, but it's fine. It's a page that I've not yet finished, so it can have as much mess on it as it likes. Right, in addition, I want to add, oh, the bubbles. So this stamp set is, oh, what is it called? Oh, I'm going to have to check that one. Something Chirp. Micro Chirp, that's it. This is Micro Chirp. So Micro Chirp is a steampunk styly bird. I knew it'd come back to me. Right, I'm going to introduce here the Peacock Feathers Distress Ink. And again, I think that's going to be, even though it's more blue, it's similar tone. And I also think that the Lucky Clover Distress Oxide, because it's broken up a little bit, has got some hints of more of a teal colour about it. This may not actually show up enough, but we will find out. And again, even if you put it on and you can't really see it, oh, it is beginning to show up. Yeah, you can see it just here. Bring that up to the camera for you. So just at this point here, there's some circles coming through. So these stamp sets, the Stamplimentals, I've said this before in videos, are brilliant because they actually enable you to make an entire piece with one set of stamps, and that was the theory behind them. Julia wanted to be able to say, if you have this set of stamps, you can make a card. You don't need to go looking for a sentiment, looking for a background, looking for anything else to add on. You can just go with one set of stamps. And I must admit, I do quite like the Stamplimentals because of that. So I'm going over some of the red with it as well. I'm not being precious about where this is going. Can I just show you? Look at the intensity of that colour here. It's absolutely beautiful. That makes me happy because it looks like rust. It's brilliant. I haven't used the Crackling Campfire much to date, but I think having seen it on here, I'm going to be starting to use it more. I've been more focused on my Seth Apters recently. And I must admit, I felt guilty. I was ignoring my distress products. So I think maybe this is my starting with distress again. So we've got these wonderful circles just dotted about. Circles dotted about. Oh, the things that humour us. Right, that's enough of them. It's just to add interest. I know I say it time and again. Right, so we've got those. Now I'm thinking now I need to add some depth, and I'm really tempted to add my favourite one, but yeah, you know what, I'm going to use it. So this is my favourite one out of all the stencils that Julia has done, and as I say, it's in my top 3. You can see it's actually still got lots of bits on it because I'm terrible at cleaning them, but to me, if they transfer over, that just gives more texture, and if they stop bits coming through and I don't get as true an edge, that doesn't worry me. If you want the true edge, then just make sure you clean your stencils and clean them well when they're still wet. That's the bit that I forget. So I'm going to use some texture paste through this. I think we'll use gritty graphite. It's lovely. I do love this. Now let me tell you why I love this. You'll see it just on this edge here. You may not be able to on camera, but it's dried out a bit here because it's the lid. And what it is it looks like a pencil. It looks like the graphite in a pencil, but then it's got a bit of shimmer as well. It's great. I really, really like it. So this comes as part of a set of 3 from Pretty Gets Gritty, and I do love Pretty Gets Gritty products. They're just so cool. Right, let's see where we want this. So very simply buttering the stencil so that the graphite paste goes through. So the set that this comes with is granite and slate as well. So they've all got black hues to them, but varying intensity. So this dries more matte but has a bit of a shimmer, whereas the others are less matte but don't have the shimmer. Let's pop a little bit more on. Doo, doo, doo. Oh, I love this stencil. It's just so clever. I'm really impressed with anyone who designs stencils. I do plan to bring out a range of stamps and stencils, but I just think other people do it so well. I have my dream that one day I will, but just for now I'll stick with using other people's, particularly when they're this good. I mean, look how cool that is. It's just brilliant. Right, let's pop this out of the way because I actually do want to use that for something else. Right, I may come back and add some more of that, but for the now we'll say that's enough of the graphite paste. Okay, now in theory this should now go straight into some water and then it will soak off, but I'm not that organised because I forgot to get some water. Okay, so now I'm going to pop this to one side. I will be coming back and drying it with the heat tool, but I want to pop it to one side because I want to look at what our focal image is going to be. And the focal image, I think it's going to have butterflies on it, so I'm going to stamp some butterflies, but I think I want to use Micro Chirp. I do like Micro Chirp. You can see there now I've taken the dirty stamp off. Isn't she just lovely? She's fabulous. And I really like this as a flower. And if you look at the sets, these are very similar. So they could be used really well together to give some perception of depth. If you wanted to put the bigger one towards the front and the smaller one further back, it's going to give you some depth perception on something you're making. But for today I'm just going to use these three, and I'm going to get a piece of card. Again, this is just a piece that I happen to have here, and I am also going to use the same colours that I used for the main piece. And somewhere I have put my, there it is, my stamping block. Right, I've popped them all on, but that might change, so I'm not going slightly mad. Now I'm going to put more of the red on this, so more of the crackling campfire. Oh, it's just such a luscious colour. I'm going to get some runs on it, and what I'm doing is I want this to stand out, so I want it to have more of a pop. The other red is on the green, so it's more muted. This red is on white, so it's going to have a much brighter tone to it, which is what I'm after. Let's see if we just add a little bit of water. Remember, your distress inks are water reactive. Now this card that I'm using, oh, I'm liking what's happening. This card that I'm using, you can see there's some little dots coming through. That's because on the other side it's hammered, so the indents show through because the card is more squished basically in the process. Right, I'm going to give this a blast and then I will come back to you. So this is dry enough now that we can stamp on top of it, and I'm thinking that's the bulkiest bit there, so that'll get the whole of Micro Chirp. So I'll take the other two off and put them back on separately, and true to form I'm going to use my Versafine Clear Ink, which is one that I absolutely love. If you've ever watched any of my videos, I think the vast majority of the videos I've made have me using Versafine Clear. So this is me being very lazy with regards to colouring in, because what you want from your focal image is that it stands out. But I mean I've done some colouring, and if you watch some of my other videos you'll see that I do have a go at colouring, and I'm starting to get better at it, but it isn't my forte, so I tend not to do it maybe as much as others. Well, I definitely don't do it as much as others. So I'm using this as a way of getting the colour there, but it may not be the end. Well, it's definitely not going to be the end of it. I'm going to be adding other colours, but this is going to give us, number one, it's going to give us a lift off the background, but also because we're going to cut with a bit of an edge, there's going to be an obvious background to the focal images, which is what we're wanting. Right, we're only going to have one butterfly, but I'm thinking we might have a couple of the flowers. So I'm going to remove the butterfly, pop it over there, and stamp the flowers again. So I hope everyone's having a lovely time at the moment. The weather here today has been absolutely beautiful. It's very spring-like. Thinking I could get another one there. And it's been great. As you can see, my hands are covered in paint at the moment because I am doing some decorating. So apologies for that. I figure they get covered in ink and paint when I'm doing this anyway, so it wouldn't matter. So there we have our images stamped. So I've pre-coloured them. Now you can choose to stamp them first and then colour them using the sprays, but that can sometimes dull the outline because you're putting another layer over the top, so it depends on how you want them to look. So what I'm going to do is cut these out and then come back to you when that's done. Well, this is the page now, and what I've done, I've given this a bit of a blast with a heat gun so it's nice and solid before I stick in anything else on. I'm still really loving that colour there. And these are the pieces that we've got that are all cut out. Now they're not cut out perfectly because, as I've said, me and cutting out, we don't get on necessarily. What I have done to make them look slightly different, so it was the same stamp, but on this one I've just cut the bottom off. So this one I'm thinking is going to be hanging down somewhere, and I quite like the idea of it coming out here. Then we have Micro Chirp there, and then these are like flowers, but on this one I've cut that edge piece off so it looks a little bit different. So I'm thinking something like this, and then with a little butterfly like that. That's my thoughts at the moment, but I'm thinking that I need to add in some other colours, and there's a few ways of doing that, and the way that I've chosen to do it is using, let me get the right ones, these beautiful pretty amazing sprays. They're from Pretty Gets Gritty, and again they're a favourite of mine, really good company, but these are lovely because they've got, you get the colour of the ink and then you get a opposing colour of mica in them, so they give quite a good shimmer. So I'm thinking this one is Vintage Patina, so it's got a blue tone to it. This is bronze, so it's obviously got the metallic to it, and this one, Bittersweet Orange, has kind of got an orange dye and then a goldy yellow mica, which I think that one's going to be particularly lovely. So I've got my general idea of things. What I usually do at this point is take a picture on my phone so that I can remind myself how I was planning it, because things change, and it doesn't mean that that's the way I'm necessarily going to do it, but it just reminds me what my intention was. So I'm going to put Micro Chirp to one side and I'm going to work on the flowers. So these are the two flowers that we're having at the bottom. So I've taken the Bittersweet Orange, which I just think is a fabulous name for a colour as well, and I'm just going to pop some of it down on my mat just so I can pick it up with a brush. And I always regret doing it straight onto the mat because I always think, well, why didn't you just use your brain and do it onto a palette? But that would require thought. Right, so I've just picked up a brush and I'm going to pick up the paint. You know what I might do? I might just dunk straight into the bottle. That's a clever idea, isn't it? No. I'm going to start adding a little bit of shimmer. Now, what I was saying about the card before and it coming through with the little black marks on it, one of the reasons for that is this is not a mixed media card. It is a card that I've had floating around for a long time. I think potentially from the very, very first stash of card I ever bought. There was a company, I want to say they were called Paperbox, that used to be on the high street, and they used to be really good for going in and you just got a box and filled it with paper and you got charged per box, so you just crammed as much as you could in. You can't really see the glistening on that, but there is a hint of a glisten to it. But I want a different colour on the other one, so I'm going to just give my brush a quick rinse. And true to form, I've got my raggy at the side of me. Give it a wipe off, and let's try the bronze. So that's the one we've already done. Remember, we're wanting to make these each of them look unique. We don't want just 3 identical looking things, so we're now adding the colour in to just give them a bit more interest and a bit more of a difference from each other. Not too different, because it is the same stamp and it is on the same piece. I'm not wanting to create a huge difference, but I'm just wanting them to not look the same. Oh, that's lovely. You can really see the shimmer on that one. Look at that. That's fabulous. Did I just not shake that one? No, it's shaking up a little bit. Might give that another shuggle and go back in, because maybe I didn't give it enough of a shuggle. Now I'm not worrying that I'm going over the lines, because these do have a translucency to them, but also the main image is Micro Chirp. So if Micro Chirp's lines are a little bit more obvious, that's going to make it more obvious that she is the leading woman. Right, give this a bit more of a shuggle, see if it makes a difference to the mica content, and we'll try it again. I prefer putting it out onto the mat than dunking in my brush in. I think I just worry about things like cross-contamination. I know it's a rarity for me to consider these things. Right. Still not really getting it. I think it's orange on orange, so it's not going to show up majorly. But I did actually completely forget to do this last flower anyway, so we can add it in. Right, let's get the vintage spray this time. So this one's more of a blue tone to it. Let's see what we do with this one. So it's called Vintage Patina, so it's brown with a blue, so it's going to go a bit more of a hint of rust, which I suppose we're already covering on the background, so this could be quite interesting. Let's see how this goes on. Oh, there's a lovely blue there. That blue is phenomenal. Who else wants to say do 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 when you hear phenomenal? I did used to like watching the Muppets as a kid. I'm being very dangerous here. I'm leaving the bottle open. Never quite sure that's a good plan around me. So this is really simple colouring. I'm going to cheat with that last one. Oh, that's a much thicker layer. Oops, that wasn't intentional, but we'll see what happens. It might actually look okay. I'm loving the blue on that. Let me hold that one up to the camera for you and you can see the blue. It is stunning. Stunning, I say. Look at that blue shimmer. Gorgeous. Right, so we've done the flowers. What shall we do with this? I think, well, it's a butterfly. It needs to be a few different colours, doesn't it? So we'll have a little bit of the blue. We'll have a little bit of the orange. And we will have a little bit of the bronze. So we're going to put all 3 colours onto this, because I think it deserves it. Butterflies should look pretty. Right, so I'm going to start with the orange because it's the palest and work my way gradually up. So I'm thinking the paler at the outside edges. And this was the bronze, wasn't it? So we'll put that at the outside edges as well because it's paler than the blue. In my head it is anyway. Put a couple of touches up the top and then we'll bring the blue in. I'm saying blue because that's the mica colour, but it's actually going on brown. So it'll be interesting to see how this looks once it's all dry. So let's give them a quick blast and then we can have a look. I'll be back in a moment. So these are all now dry, and you can see we do have some shimmer coming up on there, which is rather nice, but it's kept a lot of the original colour. And then this is our mixed batch, which isn't showing up terribly well on the camera. I'm holding a packet of pens here that I've just pulled out because I'm thinking I'm going to add some pen highlights. So these are Jelly Roll pens. They're my current thing to do with a lot of the projects that I'm working on. The ones that I've chosen to get, I've always had a white Jelly Roll pen. For as long as I can remember, I've owned a white Jelly Roll pen, but I've never looked at any of the other colours. I didn't think I'd use them, so I never bothered. But I recently purchased some of the metallics, having seen some of the things that some of the amazing people that work with them can do. So I thought I'd give these a go, and to be honest, I actually rather like them. They're rather nice. What I have found is that the colour, when I look at this, I think it's going to come out brown, and it has a hint of brown, but the metallic is the stronger element of it. And this one, you'd think it was going to be a burgundy, but it comes out as quite a pink colour. So I'm just going to add some little bits of the pink in. I don't think I do want the pink actually, because we've not got pink going on, but we do have blues and greens. So I'll pop some blue on. We have the blue flower here, so let's add some little bits of additional blue colour. So I'm just putting them on. I'm not really worrying too much about light sources. I'm just adding some hints of blue, but I also think I want to use the blue on the orange, just because. These flowers are fantasy flowers. This is going into a journal, art journal. It's my fantasy world. I can make things whatever colour I want, and that's one of the great things about making your own stuff. You make what you want to make. It doesn't matter whether it's real, because it's your fantasy. Right, so I'm going to do similar here. So this one is the sort of metallic-y black. You can tell it's metallic because it's got the shimmery bits on the lid, but it comes out more of a pewter, I suppose would be the colour that I'd say it comes out, but I do actually really like them. Rather clever. I think we'll add a little bit of pewter in here. Now, if you've seen any of Julia's videos, which I'm sure you will have, you will know that her colouring is superb, superlative even. There is nothing better. She is very, very good at it. And it's something that one day I may achieve, but I doubt it, because I'm better with big messy things than colouring. But I do like having the option of putting things like this onto my messier projects, like a journal page. I think that's one of the great things about stamps, any stamps, that you can actually pop them onto a page. You can make a real wholly chaotic project and then add some stamps in, and it calms it down a little bit somehow. But then if you colour in the stamps, it can make them quite chaotic again. Oh yes, oh yes, I'm beginning to rather like them. Right, I'm going to put those to one side, and then let's see what colour we're going to do on Micro Chirp. So I'm thinking of using my gel pens on Micro Chirp, because that's what she deserves. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go for this one. This is the cogs. So here, about her body, she has some rather lovely little cogs. So I'm just going to add in A little bit of sparkle to the cogs. One thing I would say is that for doing very, very fine detail, these pens aren't the best because the nib isn't actually that small. I think it's about a 1mm nib, which isn't really, really tiny. But for something like this, colouring in an area like this, it's absolutely fine. They also do lovely writing. If you've ever written with a Jelly Roll pen, they're just so smooth. So smooth. Make sure I go to the right ones. Just making sure I didn't just splodge my finger into some wet ink. Wouldn't be the first time and won't be the last. Right. Right, I'm going to come back in with that in a minute. I'm not sure where I want it yet. I'm going to go in with a green. So this green-blue combo I think is going to... I know this all looks a little bit clashy, but it's going to really tie in when we put it onto the page, just because of the way the page has broken down with the colours. That crackling campfire colour is just... I mean, look at it, it's such a beautiful orange. It really does go very, very well for rust. I may have to get some more things with crackling campfire. Right, so you can see I'm going to show you and show you honestly. My colouring is I'm leaving gaps between the black and the orange, and there's bits missing, but it just does what I need it to do, which is to make you actually identify that you want to look at her. The little hearts, I am going to put a little bit of pink on because they're hearts, and I just like pink hearts. So her little cheeks are going to be pink hearts. There we go. Right, I want to make her legs stand out a little bit, but I'm thinking I want to make them stand out in black. I don't want to give them colour. She's got little black leggies. So let's just stick some black in here. See, when I do actually colour, I shut up. Which sometimes is for the best. Oops. Trying to put my lid on the wrong end. Right, we need to go. Oh, I've not done a little heart pendant. We want that to match in as well, don't we? There we go. I'm not too happy with how I've done this heart here. I am actually going to get my eyes tested this week, and I don't think it can come soon enough. I think I'm getting on a bit. It's one of the things that I do like when I colour in on top of an inked image is that it really doesn't matter if you miss bits, it's not going to show up, apart from that bit there that's really obvious I've missed it completely, but little tiny bits it's not particularly going to show up, which is what you want. You want it to be kind of subtle in the bits that you missed. So these are tiny little circles. I'm just filling them in with a white pen. Gonna pop a little bit of white on her eyes because we want them to stand out, and I may well colour in the black of her eyes as well because we want that to stand out. So let's blacken that up a little bit. There we go. Want a little bit more white in there actually. We do actually want the white pretty much to the line in the eyes. She's looking pretty. Right, So this outside edge I'm going to do in the green. I'm going to do the same on this side. Oop. Like so. And then there's another one just here at the back. So even if I chose not to colour in the rest of that, you can see the shape of her body, which is what you're after. And then the top ones I'm going to do with the blue. No, I'm not. I'm going to do them. Oh, decisions. I'll do them with the brown actually. Right. There we go. And I want her little beak to stand out. So we'll add a little bit of colour onto her beak. I'm going to go back in over that and make the beak a line again once it's dried. Right. So now for a little bit of assemblage. I do like the idea of adding in some highlights on these as well, so I'm going to do that before I stick things on, so that I'm not then trying to do it against something that's already in place. And again, it's the same theory, you're just making the eye see things in more depth. Highlights and lowlights are really good at doing that. So it goes back to your colouring in theory of making sure that you've got a mid, a dark and a light tone, but you're doing it with different colours. And it adds depth. Okay. Right, I'm going to stop there, I think. Yeah, quite like that. Right, so now I need to remember which way I said they were going to go. So I said that one was going to go at the front, but I'm going to swap it actually. I want that one at the front and lower down. This one I definitely want coming out of here because I just think that looks cool. I still want you over there, and a little Micro Chirp can come here. Oh, I'm quite liking the way this page is looking. I really wasn't sure how it would turn out using the orange as the background for the stamping, but I actually quite like it. So I'm just going to stick these on now, just using a bit of Cosmic Shimmer Glue, which is really good for a quick grab, and it also has a reasonably fine nib on it, but I do tend to over smaller bits. Just get your finger in there. Don't be afraid of getting stuff on your fingers. You can always rub it off. A bit more out there. There we go. So there we go, little Micro Chirp. You can go on there, you lovely girl. You delicious lovely. I'm going to put this one at the back. The reason I've chosen to put this one at the back is I'm just not as happy with the way that it looks, so I don't want it in the forefront quite as much. You're still going to notice it, but I'm just not as keen, so I want it slightly further back. But we're still going to have it on here because it does still have the shimmer, but I just really like the way that the blue one and the bronzy one came through. Now I will be using that on other projects, the sunburst, and it is beautiful. I've used it on quite a few projects already. It is absolutely beautiful. It's just because I'm putting it on top of orange, it's not showing up as much. So please don't think that it's a dodgy colour. It isn't. It's just because I'm putting orange on orange so it doesn't show up. I do absolutely love it. Right, little butterfly. Let's see where we can put you. If this was on a card or something, I would make this more 3D. but because it's in my art journal, I do try not to make too many of my projects fat, because when you do, it can be troublesome to work on the other side of the page or on the next page along. The other way to deal with that is to do it, to stick things into your book after you've done them on a separate piece. So have it kind of loose on your page and then stick it in when you've done the pages around it, so it doesn't interfere with them. Something to consider. Right, this one up here, like so. Right, once that's dried off a little bit, I will trim that back, but I want to put some sort of an edge on this because that's what I do. I think a lot of people do. I think it just doesn't feel right if I don't frame it. So I'm going to open it up so it's flatter, and I'm going to do a slightly different one from my usual. I'm going to go back to one that I've used in the past, which is more of a scribble. So you just go back and forth, using usually 3 strokes each way, and just increasing the length on each stroke. And I just quite like the effect that has. It's a casual frame, and I'm not going to do my usual little squiggle. It's just to show you there are other ways of framing things. Okay, you know what, I'm quite liking how that's looking. The only thing that I need to do, and I'm going to get out brush 1 on this one, is just pop in, just check it's dry first. You know what, it's not quite dry, and I don't want to put my pen over the top of it when it's still wet, but what I will do is just redraw the little beak back in. Right, let's get a pair of scissors. I'm going to use a non-paper pair because it's still got glue on the back of it and I don't want to jam up a paper pair. So that's that bit chopped off, and overall I'm quite pleased with that. So that's using the Stamplimentals set, the Micro Chirp set, the oh, I've forgotten the name of this now, this fabulous stencil that's one of my top 3, gel pens, a distress oxide, a distress ink in the sprays, and distress ink pads. So we've not used an awful lot really, but I think it looks quite effective. Rather chuffed with it. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much for joining me. Bye.